Ciao Fabri, we are back here in the podcast. Today is actually a big day for transfer, for rumors, for Manchester City, of course, because is the day Kevin De Bruyne announced to the public, to everyone, he will leave the club at the end of this season. So let's start into this. Let's talk about this in depth. And what's your reaction also on this matter?
I'm not surprised, to be honest, because today we have the breaking news. Today we have the confirmation, but it was already in the rumors for months, and we always mentioned this possibility of Kevin De Bruyne leaving Manchester City. Then, when you see the moment coming, obviously the feeling is different. But yes, it's over. It's over because Manchester City and Kevin De Bruyne had this clear indication that it was time to part ways. It's over because probably for Manchester City, already since the January transfer window, we are moving into a new era. It was a complicated season. We all know that in terms of results, but also there is a feeling that something has finished at Manchester City, and so they want to refresh the squad. They already started this process in the January transfer window with several young players joining the team. It will be the same in the summer, so I expect City to be really busy. And when you refresh the squad, obviously some big names like Kevin De Bruyne could leave the club. So it's part of the process. It's part of football. It's a sad day for Manchester City because it's the end of something fantastic, an incredible relationship between the club, between the fans, between the city also, and Kevin De Bruyne. But it's time to move on for them.
Yeah, he said all these things in a long statement, he published on his social media channels. And then you said you were not surprised by this news, but what's the reaction that Manchester City had after the announcement of Kevin De Bruyne?
Yeah, they were not surprised as well. From what I understand, it was everything coordinated. Also because the relationship between Kevin De Bruyne, Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, the coaching staff, the management with Chiki Begiristain, and all the people at the club, including Ferran Soriano and all the others, is really excellent. So Kevin has always been super respectful with Man City. They've always been super respectful with Kevin. The relationship has always been great, and despite this complicated situation, because it's been a tough season on the pitch, but also off the pitch, sometimes you get nervous when results are not coming. They are used at Manchester City to basically win 90% of the games. So when we have this sort of season, everything is complicated, especially for big players, especially for a player like De Bruyne who had many injuries. It was not an easy moment, an easy couple of months for Kevin and for Manchester City, but my understanding is that everything was coordinated. So they decided together, they had discussions in the recent weeks and months, and then today was probably the best moment to hear from Kevin himself. He wanted to publish a statement, he wanted to be the one announcing that, and then Pep Guardiola confirming in his press conference.
You said they decided together. So over the couple of the last month, there were some sort of negotiations between the two sides, between Kevin De Bruyne, who I remember he was like negotiating himself. I don't know if he still does that, but like there was still like a negotiation between the parties or not.
No, there was no negotiation from what I'm hearing. So we had several rumors in the recent months about that, especially in October, in November. But my understanding is that Manchester City never presented a new contract proposal to Kevin De Bruyne, but not in a negative way. Just at the same time, Kevin De Bruyne was not opening any kind of discussion with Manchester City to start a conversation over new deal. So I think they really arrived at the point where probably this was the best moment to say goodbye and to close a fantastic chapter between each other. So a new contract was never really a topic. Also on the club side, with all respect for Kevin De Bruyne, maybe after all the injuries and this need they feel internally in Manchester City to refresh the squad, they've been really honest with Kevin, and Kevin has been honest with them, and probably it was time for him to try something different. So there was not even a negotiation. It was not about the money. It was not about the length of the contract. It was not about the level of the player. It was just probably the best moment to say goodbye. And I think this is something we should respect. We came here on the podcast on Many Blazers 1 year ago saying how special and beautiful was what, for example, Toni Kroos did with Real Madrid, retiring at the right moment. In this case, it's not a retirement. It's the moment to close a fantastic chapter, but I think at the same level, because when you have a superstar like De Bruyne and a super team like Man City, to say goodbye in this way is really healthy, I think, really good.
Talking about reactions, we know the special relationship that Kevin De Bruyne had with and have with Pep Guardiola, how close they are. And so what was the reaction by Pep, if you have some details on the matter?
Yeah, from what I heard, there was a conversation already a few weeks ago when Kevin De Bruyne has been really honest with Pep Guardiola, telling him that probably this was going to end. As I told you, again, already since the beginning of the season, there was this feeling. But then a few weeks ago, Kevin has been honest with Pep, and then in the recent days, he confirmed the decision to make an announcement. It was quite sad, but not said in a negative way. I think from what I heard from my sources internally, it was a very honest, very nice conversation between Kevin and Pep. The relationship is fantastic. Pep loves Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin loves Pep. What they did for each other is unbelievable. So there is a lot of respect. That conversation was really fair, and I think also Pep, who is already planning together with the management for the next season. So Pep is fully involved in this process. Pep has been honest with Kevin De Bruyne, also told him how probably this was the best moment to say goodbye, wishing him obviously all the best for the future, but now there is the present. Now it's time for Man City to still qualify for the next Champions League. Kevin De Bruyne wants to help Man City at his best level possible till the very end, and then they will say goodbye in public. But it was a fair conversation a few weeks ago already, and Pep respected obviously the timing of Kevin De Bruyne. Many times he got questions in press conference asking about Kevin. He's always been saying it's up to Kevin, to his agent, to the club. He never wanted to enter in public into this conversation, but Pep already knew about that.
Yeah, by the way, Manchester City already announced there will be a big farewell, a big and emotional farewell for such an idol and legend of the club. Talking about his future, because right now, okay, we talk about his past, we talk about his decision, but what's gonna be his future? We remember his quotes about Saudi football 1 year ago, more or less. So, can Saudi football become a destination for him?
I think it's a possibility. It's not a guarantee at this stage, so we keep everything open also because, again, it's fresh news and he will take his time. Also with his family. The family will be really important for the final decision of Kevin De Bruyne, so let's wait for his time to discuss, obviously, with his wife and with all the people involved with his family in order to make a decision. But Saudi could be a possibility. There were rumors today about Neom, second division side in Saudi, already having a deal in place with Kevin De Bruyne, everything prepared. From what I'm hearing, this is not true. There is no bid, there is no conversation, and there is not even interest from Neom side or Kevin De Bruyne side. So they didn't start any sort of conversation. So I think as of today, we can clearly say that it's not going to Neom. But there are other Saudi clubs interested, so that could be a possibility. And as you mentioned, we still remember the quotes from Kevin before the Euros 1 year ago when he said, probably you have to think when you receive this big money proposal from Saudi, this could change the life of 3-4 generations. And so those quotes are still important, still relevant, but it doesn't mean that it's guaranteed that Kevin De Bruyne will play in Saudi.
He was close, right? Well, at one point, there was some rumors, right, about him and Saudi football before.
Yeah, it was already a possibility 1 year ago. Then he decided to complete his contract at Manchester City, but it was already a possibility. So it remains an option, it remains a possibility, but again, not something guaranteed.
Another big option, big opportunity might be the MLS because there are already some rumors about MLS teams. Of course, here we have Men in Blazers, so we are really careful about possible rumors and possible players moving to the United States. So, can MLS be an option for Kevin De Bruyne?
Yes, for sure. And that's why before I was saying that the family will make an impact. They have to decide also on the personal life, what they want to do. So it's going to be about the contract, the money, the league, but also personal life. And obviously, when you enter in this sort of conversation for the final contrast of the career of a superstar, like in the case of Kevin De Bruyne, obviously, MLS could be really attractive. So there are possibilities. Also in this case, we had reports 4 months about San Diego already having a deal in place with Kevin. I'm hearing also in this case is not true. Nothing has been agreed. Nothing has been decided. So let's keep all the options open, and MLS is one of these for sure. But also in this case is not something decided, and Kevin will take his time.
We mentioned about MLS, we mentioned about Arabian clubs, but also Europe might become an option if there are some clubs interested. You are aware of some clubs interested in Kevin De Bruyne?
Yeah, let's see. I'm curious to see now what happens because, as I mentioned, there is still nothing agreed with any club despite interest from Saudi MLS. And so let's see what happens if some European club can maybe try to offer a short-term contract to Kevin and keep him in Europe. At the moment, what I heard is that the initial conversations were with Saudi and MLS clubs. So at the moment, I'm not aware of European clubs starting a proper conversation with Kevin and trying to keep him maybe in the top 5 leagues. But let's see what happens, because now being a free agent, is also attractive for many clubs. I think also Kevin knows that in Europe it's going to be almost impossible to have the same salary, same contract he had at Manchester City. At this stage is a completely different moment for several clubs, and also his age, the recent injuries, so probably the contract proposal from Europe would be different, but again, it's up to the player, and now he will surely take his time.
So now Manchester City fans want to know what's going to be next at the club. So is there a new Kevin De Bruyne in the wish list of Manchester City?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, as first point on Man City, as we mentioned, it's going to be a busy summer. So we saw in January the intention of the club to invest on young players, to prepare the future, to start building on the players of the future for Pep and for Manchester City in general. And this will be the tendency also in the summer transfer window, for sure. In terms of new Kevin De Bruyne, of course, they wish they can find the right one. It's not easy at all on the market. The dream target internally, from what I'm hearing, a player they really love at Manchester City, would be Florian Wirtz. We know the appreciation from Manchester City for Florian Wirtz. They really rate him as a top player. But first point, is not guaranteed at this stage that Florian Wirtz will leave Bayer Leverkusen this summer, because Florian Wirtz and his father, who is taking care of his future, have a new contract proposal again now available on the table from Bayer Leverkusen. Bayer Leverkusen are basically proposing to extend the contract and include a release clause. So it's like saying, okay, stay with us one more season, and then from summer 26, after the World Cup, you will have the possibility to go and pick the club by triggering the release clause. So this is what Bayer Leverkusen are offering, and they still try to keep Florian Wirtz. And then the second point, Manchester City, yes, they like Florian Wirtz, but they also know that Bayern Munich consider him their top target for the future, this or next summer, we will see. And for a German player to fight with Bayern could prove really complicated. So let's see what happens, but the appreciation for Wirtz is something I can absolutely confirm.
So you say it's going to be a busy summer for Manchester City. Many players might arrive, but also many players might go as well. So might follow Kevin De Bruyne's path. Who is next in line for that matter? Like, who can leave Manchester City?
Yeah, I think it's going to be busy also with the outgoings, and so for sure we have to follow, just to stay in the midfield department, what's going to happen with several players. For example, with Bernardo Silva, who still has a release clause into his contract, and so Bernardo's situation could be one to watch in the summer. Let's see what Bernardo and the club decide, but we remember how from Saudi and also from Paris Saint-Germain there was interest in the last 2 years, so let's see what happens with Bernardo. I will keep an eye also on the situation of Ilkay Gundogan, because Gundogan rejoined last summer, but there is still the possibility for him to go this summer in case there is a good opportunity. So I think in that department, in the midfield, for Man City, there could be some interesting movement. They already invested, obviously, in Nico in the January transfer window, but there are several players they are monitoring for that position. And so I think for Manchester City, it's going to be a very, very busy summer.
Okay, so thank you for today. Again, we are in a new year of our podcast because we are also on video. So please subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and you can also watch us there, and talk to you soon.
See you soon. Ciao, guys.